And on the 29th day, Eve took Adam's hand as they stood blinking in the sun. They looked at the land spread out before them as the wind chased those clouds across the plains. Eve turned to Adam, looked him deep in the eyes and said, "Fuck, that garden was small. Fancy a margarita?" This is the 29th day. The age of gods, gurus, priests and bad mothers is coming to an end. And as we stand on the brink, adult orphans, we could be looking for someone to take their place. Anyone to take away this massive sense of space. But maybe, just maybe, you can notice that little voice saying, "What if I can actually be me now? I wonder who I am. Is there actually anything there at all?" We've killed the gods. We're the gods now. So how do you step into being a god? This podcast exists to explore this. I don't have the answers. You have the answers. So let's go play. It's great to be here again for another edition of the podcast, The 29th Day. And it's been a while since I've done a podcast, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So every 4 months or so, I do a really scouring process called True Grit. And I open this process to others to take part. And basically, we all choose something that makes our hands shake, our palms sweat, our stomachs do somersaults, and we commit to it for 28 days. And what happens as a result of this is that the first week, life changes immeasurably in really exciting ways. By the second week, you're wondering what the hell you're doing. By the third week, you're thinking, I really don't recognise my life at all. True Grit, what? And by the fourth week, you're pretty much living in a different reality. And for me, it's exactly the same. For me, it's the height of vulnerability. I don't know what's going to happen when I choose, and I can't choose something that doesn't meet those physical criteria, that felt sense of I suppose it's terror and excitement, and also I have to acknowledge some element of turn on as well. And when all of that is present in the body, that is the place to go to run towards those sirens. And so I have to choose within that criteria. It doesn't work if I don't. And the difficulty with that is I don't know who I'm going to be. So after True Grit, twice now we've done True Grit. The next one's coming up on the 20th of February. If you'd like to join that, get ready. Get ready to be a new you that's always been waiting to come into being. But both times I've done it, I've gone very much into the intellect afterwards and figuring out what next. And I'm really determined not to do that this time and to let go of control even more and to continue showing up after True Grit, even though I don't know who I am. This reality would have you think that consistency, I mean, particularly in spiritual or wellness industry, consistency is key. Brand, all of those things. It's like I am not a brand. My brand is me, who I am, and who I am, and who I be in each moment is a constant dance. I'm guessing it is for you too. And it's okay. Not only is it okay not to know, it means that you are in a constant dynamic flow of expansion. And so, this podcast, this particular edition of the 29th day, I really felt such an urge to hop on and talk about how the last month has been for me, and also to invite you to something that I have found has changed my reality quicker than anything I have tried before. And it hasn't come like I need to change my reality. It's come from a natural expansion and a blossoming. But at the same time, you might be like, I really would like to change my reality. There are so many things that maybe if you don't even say it in this way that you want, but that you have a longing for something greater, because very often people like us don't go around with a to-do list and a big list of goals and targets. We have longings for things, longings to be more us, to expand, to become more ourselves. Now, if this is you, what I'm going to talk about today could well be tool, way, the way of being that you've been looking for. This episode is entitled Saying Yes to Life. Now, sometimes we think we're saying yes, and we kind of are saying yes, but in a very limited framework. I wrote a newsletter recently when I talked about redesigning your reality, and someone took the time to get back to me and said, I don't think we design our reality in the first place. Control is an illusion. We can't redesign our lives. And it's kind of true and kind of not. Now, if we're hanging on to a story of who we are from the past, then it's going to be really hard to redesign your life. So, this episode is really asking you to look at the future, to not forget about the past. Because of the past, you are who you have become today. Without a single one of those things happening, you could not be you. Now, perhaps you think, well, maybe that's not such a bad thing if I wasn't me. Now, I beg to differ. And very often the bits that we don't like are actually not us at all. They're energy that we're putting in place to stop the gloriousness of our being from actually being the most prevalent force in our lives. So, how do you, if I say it's a limited framework, how do you say yes to life in a way that really catapults you into a new way of being, a new reality? So, here's the process that I use with clients, with people who are about to do True Grit, and with myself when I'm looking for what is causing me to feel stressed. So, like right now, just to share, this is how I work best. Right now, I'm like, I had a little break in the recording because my computer was full, and I've come back on now, and I'm like, oh, what if I don't get this right? What if I don't get this perfect? This is the perfect example of a polarity. The polarity is me getting it perfect or me not doing it at all. And now I'm going to say yes to something different. I'm going to choose to be vulnerable, to share that with you, to show up exactly where I'm at, which is not what we normally do. It's kind of counterintuitive. What we would normally do is take a break, write some notes so that all of this runs perfectly and no one will know. So I'm resisting being imperfect, being human, actually. And I work much better when I'm really, really present. But to give you like an example of how saying yes to something that terrified me on one level and excited me on another, and let's unpick how that was part of the whole process of getting off this polarity. So I've said yes to something earlier in the month, which was a course, and I didn't fully know what the course was. I paid for it 2 years ago, and it was a different course, and I said to the facilitator of the course, can I use that money to do another of your courses in the future? He said yes. Well, fast forward 2.5 years later, and I saw that there was a course in Croatia, which, although it's the neighbouring country to where I'm living now, actually took quite a bit of organisation to get there. So the first thing I did was I looked at how I would get there. And I realised that either I would have to drive for 8 or 9 hours, and I didn't have my own car, so that would mean hiring a car, or I would get a plane part of the way, hire a car, drive the rest of the way in a foreign country. Okay, so that's totally out of my comfort zone. The first thing that came was, I really want to do this course. I don't actually know what the course is. I don't know why I want to do it. I would just really like to do it. And I talked about it with my husband, and he was like, oh, right, okay. And we have a 7-year-old that we co-parent, and things are a bit different here. We're in a foreign country. She needs me more than she probably would at home because she's still adjusting. And I looked up what it would take to get there, and I kind of said to myself, I don't really need to go to that course. I can probably manage without. I don't really need it. Okay, so this is the polarity kicking in. The polarity that's on need. Does it fit in with my current framework? I need a reason for choosing something. And I got up the next day and I said to my husband, do you know what? I probably won't go on that course. I might, but probably I won't. I don't think I need to do that. And as the day went on, I thought, well, possibly the facilitator isn't willing to carry that money over. I'll just contact him to ask if I can use that money. And I sent a message that lunchtime, and as soon as he said, yes, of course, that's fine, that was it. I knew I was going to go, and it didn't make any sense, and it was kind of crazy, and I followed it anyway. And that really was the beginning of this month's big saying yes to something. It doesn't have to be as massive as going to another country. It doesn't even have to cost any money. But it kind of has an element of saying yes to something that doesn't really make sense in your life as it is. If it makes sense in your life as it is, then it's the same old polarity and the same old paradigm. And just a warning, if you listen to this and you're like, well, that's interesting, you will start to see places where you can say yes to something different. That's what I mean by different. It's outside of your paradigm. And when we say yes to things that are outside of our paradigm, that's when massive change begins to happen. Like faster than you could ever imagine. I'm not going to go into a massive story about the course other than it completely changed my life, not always in ways I was comfortable with. It brought up a lot of parts of me that I haven't been willing to look at. A lot of powerful, passionate, emotional parts of me that I decided I was over, didn't need. And actually, I really value those parts now. I own them as part of me. Some people talk about this as shadow work. I don't tend to use those words because they feel like somebody else's words, and there's a significance to it, maybe a spiritual significance that I'm not really interested in. But definitely you'll recognize the process that through saying yes to that, nothing turned out the way I thought it was going to. Nothing. And maybe you're finding this at the moment, that nothing in your life is turning out the way you think it's going to turn out. And things that maybe before all of this crazy happened, like, is it nearly 3 years ago now? you say yes to a course and it happens this way and it happens that way, and you have a rough idea what you're going to get out of it at the end of it, like not definite but rough, that you're going to expand, then you'll choose the next thing. We really don't know what our yes will create. This is vital. This is why people don't say yes to life, because they can't control it. But your yes, and under these conditions of saying yes to something that is outside of your paradigm, is going to create your existence as an expanded, greater version of you. But you'll have to experiment with it. And as I say, it doesn't have to be something that costs any money. You may find the more you say yes, and the more you allow your desires then to come into being, to actually be in your body. And spoiler alert, they are already in your body. You've just been ignoring them and they've been running the show. But I think we'll cover that next episode. But the more you say yes, the more you're able to own your desire, what you truly desire. So that's the first instance of saying yes. The second instance of saying yes in my life came shortly after that. So I just got back from Croatia, had 5 days away, and I found that I absolutely loved being in different countries and travelling to different places. And there were quite a lot of stops on the way, and cities to go through: Dubrovnik, Zagreb, Novigrad, and then the same on the reverse. And then I came back, and we saw our friends had put a Facebook post up to say that they'd just bought an apartment in Bansko, their second apartment. And my husband put underneath their post, "Wow, congratulations guys, that was quick. They did it in a day. I guess they like saying yes. They're world schoolers." And underneath that, our friends commented, "Hey, do you want to visit? I'm buying the wine now, jump in the car." And we had a very quick chat of about 1 minute, and the answer was yes. Now you might think, well, of course it's yes. Somebody's offering you a free stay in their apartment in a ski resort called Bansko in Bulgaria. That sounds really exciting. For me, that yes involved a great deal of loss of control. I don't know what Bansko is like. I mean, I do now. I didn't then. I don't know what Bansko is like. I don't know how much our friends will expect us to follow their schedule. You don't know till you go on holiday with somebody. I don't know anything about it. And even talking about it, I can feel my heart racing. And it really was something I would have said no to in the past, out of a desire to control, but also out of a desire to keep my existence roughly the same as it is now, whilst also telling myself I wanted things different. So this yes, as I've described to you, definitely made my hands shake, made my heart beat. And I had no idea what was going to come of it, other than I was saying yes to seeing some people we met when we first moved to Montenegro a 1.5 years ago. And we've seen once since they moved on and follow on Facebook. But I was saying yes to going to see them. Then it began to transpire. "Oh, bring your swimming costume." "Why?" "Oh, well, there's a pool in the apartment complex." "Oh, and there are hot springs as well, so you definitely want your costume for that." And what unfolded was basically a repeated offer for me to just say yes to everything. We arrived there after an 8-hour drive on very difficult roads, and we were a little bit late, to be told, "Okay, we're going straight out now. We're going to some hot springs to meet some Australian friends, some English people. You'll love them." Again, that might sound like wonderful to you. To me, I was like, I don't have time to settle into my place. What if I don't like these people? What if I'm forced into a situation that I can't control and I can't get out of? And I very consciously, with my whole body, like every molecule in my body, I let go and I said, yes. I'm here right now, I'm present right now, and I'm saying yes to this. Including going to a New Year's Eve party. Now, there are so many instances of me saying yes on this trip that I can't name them all. But what I would like to say is that it has changed me beyond recognition. Just a week of saying yes has changed me beyond recognition and made me really aware of all the places we physically with our bodies say no. And we put up these walls and barriers and try to control the future. But what we're actually doing is keeping ourselves stuck in the position we say we don't want. Now, I met a lot of people there who spend their lives, they are world schoolers, and if you're not familiar with the term, world schooling is families who spend their lives travelling the globe and learning with the world as their classroom. And it's a concept that's interested me since we first moved here and met some world schoolers. I don't know for definite that we'll do it, but I also know there are many ways of creating a life that we enjoy. And just to finish this up, I just met somebody for a coffee, and she said to me, we talked about world schooling, and she said to me, I love the idea, but at my age now, I like my bathroom things, and I like my home, and I want things in this way. If I was younger and the kids were younger, I would do that. And I also noticed lots of that stuff coming up when I talk to these world scholars. But I'm also aware that if we desire it, if I desire a life where I'm travelling, where I love beautiful things and a beautiful home, where I'd like a base, where I would like more children around for Alona, where I would like someone to help with Alona and be a support for her when I'm working, I can conceive of a reality where all those things are possible. But you know what? I can't control it, so it happens. I can't decide how it shows up. The way it gets to show up is I allow myself to desire it with all of my being. Like a child would ask for something. Not my child. She doesn't expect things to show up, which is really interesting. That's how she gets things to show up. But to ask with all of my being, which is the way I do it. So just thinking now about the past month and noticing perhaps all the places you could have said yes that you didn't, and then let that go. And now, from this minute of stopping this recording, can you commit to saying yes to everything that meets the physical criteria of, I don't know if I can, but I'm going to choose it anyway. And watch the magic unfold, and please let me know what happens when you say yes to life.
You've been listening to the 29th Day podcast with Jessica Summers. Everything I do is designed to create more freedom. Freedom from programming, freedom from attachments, and freedom to be you, the magnificent you. There's so much to support you on my website at www.jessicasummershypnogenics.com. We need you now. Is it time to step up? And if you've enjoyed the 29th Day podcast, please review and share. Do your bit to spread the word that we have everything we can possibly need to change the planet and step into all of us right here within us. Be brave, be vulnerable, be as great as you are.